PowerPoint presentation corrupts absolutely, but I will still inflict it on you all. It's a terrifying thought to speak after Ram, and it's an equally terrifying audience. All of you know probably much more about the war and all that's unfolding than I do, but I'll try and share some thoughts by way of, I just thought that, you all know it's almost playing out on a daily basis, on an hourly basis, etc. So, I mean, they say that the US is quite lucky because while Iran just has a supreme leader, it has a supreme misleader who's adding so much of context every day to the war, clarifying issues as he goes about. One can't even rely on what Trump says as being the truth and I was struck by Edward Luce, who's the Financial Times head for Northern America, which is like a very serious post in Western media. He could be the editor of New York Times, Financial Times the next day, but he said that more than Trump, it's come to this, that we have to wait for, yikes, one moment. We have to wait for Iran to be able to say something before we can make sense of the truth. Fine, so I just thought that, some thoughts that I can share with you on what's happening at this very grim time. So I thought I'll just start with this. I think the majority of you would have seen this, but just for those who haven't seen it, it's a completely mind-bending kind of exercise in how Iran is fighting this war. For all of us who had these ideas about what Iran is, it's a short video.
Yeah, watch this. Sacred defense, we protecting the soil. Why you sacrifice soldiers to pay for your spoil? You used to rent the globe, sitting on your throne. Now we turning every base into a bed of stone. It's a slaughterhouse, a trap you couldn't see. Welcome to the graveyard of your vanity. The secrets are leaking. The pressure is rising. We locked on the target, and now you are hiding. LOSC. Your name. Send them to the slaughter, you the only one to blame. Bleeding for a bucket while you shaking in your sweet LOSC. Taste the ass at the feet, LOSC. They was spelling out your name. Send them to the slaughter, you the only one to blame. Bleeding for a bucket while you shaking in your sweet LOSC. Taste the ass at the feet. Sweating in your suit, hiding Epstein's ghost. You sent your boys to die on a bloody coast. Not a revenge for the leader's blood is purely mine. Every drop of his blood is a missile on the line. You got to took him out. Thought the fire was dead, but another carbonated is standing ahead. Yeah, you strike one down, we just shatter your brain. We put another in the leg. Carbonated again. The secrets are leaking. The pressure is rising. We locked on the target, and now you are hiding. LOSC. Yeah, we spelling out your name. Send them to the slaughter, you the only one to blame. Bleeding for a bucket while you shaking in your sweet LOSC. Taste the ash, LOSC. Yeah, we spelling out your name. Send them to the slaughter, you the only one to blame. Bleeding for a bucket while you shaking in your sweet LOSC. Taste the ash at the feet. Sacred defense of the homeland. Sacred defense of the homeland. Sacred defense of the homeland. The slaughterhouse is open. Commonly can LOSC.
So Iran continues to fight this war by missiles, drones, and also Lego. Who thought that the one theocracy in West Asia that we've all been told is, it's full of these mullahs, they're not letting their women do anything, they themselves don't do very much other than possibly read the namaz, is going to reply back in this idiom and hit back at the mightiest military the world has seen. So I think that just set the stage for how absolutely this has completely left everybody, as much as Trump's rubbish and his BS every day, every minute that he wakes up after his Diet Coke and puts out a Truth Social post. This has also completely taken people by surprise as to what a regime, an Islamic theocratic regime, 47 years under sanctions, is able to kind of put out. So I was thinking that if Eric Hobsbawm was around and this was the age of something, we clearly are in the middle of World War III. I'm not a foreign policy expert, not even a foreign policy geek, but I just get the very distinct feeling we're right in the middle of it. Maybe we're past the stage of, the silent war when Czechoslovakia is annexed by Hitler stage and slowly spreading. So if I was Hobsbawm, what kind of an age would it be? And I think it would be the age of stupid evil, which I can characterize it by, because you see the most incredible absurdities twinned with the most incredible horrors that this age brings. So I present to you about 5 points that I could think of in the past couple of days to share with you. You already know everything about the war. Ram has already put everything in perspective, but I thought just share 5 quick points with you and examine some kind of is there any scope for solidarity beyond this? I think the first thing we must acknowledge is that it remains a horrendous moment, which for all its horrors and its crises also has some doors are opening of opportunity, and we must see that as concerned citizens of the planet, engaged people who want the world to survive and who want a better place tomorrow. It's also a bizarre time because you have Gramsci being quoted at the World Economic Forum by right-wing Belgian prime ministers, by central bankers. They're of course misquoting him, but his famous thoughts, which he wrote incidentally exactly 100 years ago when he started doing his prison diaries, about this being a time when things haven't settled, so it's a time of monsters, goes the misquote. He actually just said that between the sunset and the sunrise, it's a time for morbid symptoms to come up. But that has been read as time of monsters. And I was stunned to note that Gramsci is being quoted at WEF and bankers. So clearly a very bizarre, horrendous moment. I think the first thing that one can take away from this war, this World War III that we find ourselves in the middle of, is that we were very busy attaching the word neo to a lot of words. Neo-colonial, neoliberal, neo-imperial. I think we can safely retire neo. Because what this war has brought home clearly is the very pristine, back to the basics, absolutely brass tacks colonialism and imperialism. There are 2 things I think which are central to imperialism. The first being this very resource, commodity, extractive aspect of imperial power. And it's been made very clear by Vance. Vance was asked in a CBS interview that what do the people of America gain if we go after Venezuela? He says, we gain a lot because they have all these resources, now we own them. So, they are all now at the behest of the people of America. So the whole business of Venezuela as being the largest place for crude is central to the occupation and to the absolute crazy kidnapping at the cost of 62 Cuban lives, I think, on that night when they picked up Maduro and his wife. So it's very basic and extractive. President Lula of Brazil also mentioned this and said that we are now they want our gold, they want our lithium, they want our critical reserves. So I think neo word can easily be retired. The second part of colonialism, which is about not giving a damn about the people you go out to, i.e. kind of you just demonize the people or you turn them into termites. You don't care what happens to them. So the utter disregard with which Netanyahu speaks of the Palestinians and of larger West Asia, of Lebanon, as we see what's unfolding there, and of what's happening to the Iranian people and the way it's kind of spoken of. I noticed one thing which is quite intriguing, that the Americans always mispronounced Iraq to Iraq. But I think they're very careful not to call it Iran. They ideally should be mispronouncing it and making it about running away, because that's what Iran, they're very careful to say it Iran. But I think even the US proposed kind of the threats, Marco Rubio particularly for his own very personal reasons, is constantly talking about Cuba. It's really about just annexation in the way we read it in the history books, in a very 19th century rapacious, basic way. So I think the whole phrase neo can be now safely retired, because we're dealing with colonialism 101, very basic form of colonialism. And also all these AI gurus giving us garbage about data being the new oil, I think we can be very clear that oil is the new oil. So this centrality of our material truths, whether it is fertilizers, food, clothing, oil, is what human beings need, which all of us need. So this great virtual metaverse we were being dragged into can take a back seat and wait for a while oil remains the new oil. The second point, I think that this entire stage that we find as the whole American dream or the American nightmare ends and we await some kind of a morning, is that it's happening in a context where there's no bloc contestation. This whole isms thing which we saw post-45 when the onset of the Cold War, which was actually quite a structured kind of a struggle between two blocs, and also the end of the Cold War was like the competing isms. We don't see that happening now because China is clearly much smarter than that and is playing a completely different game from this. It's not falling into that bloc thing. There is no clash of civilizations. So Samuel Huntington's also this great Islam versus things. So you have Israel and America, they're running their own Christian and Judeo scriptures. And you'll notice it's not anti-Islam because the Gulf Cooperation Council is completely complicated and messed up the plot. Because, it's become this strange Sunni countries and a Shia country locked in, Sunni countries with Shia populations. So the complexity of West Asia has denied it getting this carpet any battle of isms that doesn't seem to be happening. And the third thing I think is also interesting because for all of us earlier thought that, this is fine, so NATO will retire and BRICS will take over. Seamless, ho jayega. America is out, we're in. This whole thing that this will be fought between the global majority versus the global north or the global minority, that has also been put paid to and at least gotten complicated. It's gotten complicated because China on the BRICS thing has become too big. It's kind of the technological sort of powerhouse. It's in terms of ideas, in terms of green energy, it's playing another game. It's not really an underdog in the way you define Global South. It may still well lead the Global South out of the woods, but it's not the underdog. Argentina and Saudi Arabia have really positioned themselves in a very dodgy way. So that whole the Global South will now fight the Global North, that thing is gone. And the biggest kind of betrayer in this deal is actually India. The fact that the government of India has gone rogue on the question of the Global North. So if you imagine the US-Israel as a scooter, India is desperate to somehow be the third wheel on the axis. And as Ram mentioned, Modi is going there hours before the attack. The visit of the UAE head to India personally for 3 hours and going back, we still don't know what happened. There weren't proper readouts. Mr. Modi is standing in the Knesset and wearing that fake medal, and after that saying that we are with Netanyahu and Israel in all the wars that have been fought and the wars that will be fought later and for the future. That's really ominous. So I think India, which is such a large, proud country, we have non-alignment, we have Bandung as our heritage, to have squandered that heritage for I don't know what we're getting by being this third wheel of the US-Israel machine. So I think that's the other thing. Ram hinted at this as well, and this is a very significant part of this war, is the public opinion despite everything that one can see. And if you just examine public opinion in the US, these are Gallup poll details on the 27th of February. That's a day before the attack is launched. And Israel is deeply unpopular, which is understandable, but Palestine, the support for Palestine is on the up within average Joe blogs in the US. So I think that's a very significant thing to observe, that public opinion, whether on Gaza, anti-Israel, and pro-Palestine, it's a big shift which will determine the next generation of bureaucrats, people who are ruling there, and also constituents of the House of Congress and Senate when they decide what position they should adopt. Looking at public opinion on Iran is also a country at war. This is the first time in America when in the early rosy-eyed period of the war, you see so much of anti-war opinion. A survey by Fox News also puts anti-war opinion at 58%. No doubt there's a skew, the entire MAGA that MAGA pitch of the Republican Party is kind of egging them on. But even within the MAGA kind of tribe, there is a big divide on what's going on. There was a Reuters Ipsos poll that found 61% of the respondents disapproved of the US's attacks. So as the war is going on, Trump is just not getting that support, that bounce that he needs from the people. And I think the fifth point that's driven home very clearly in these wars is the role of the tech platforms as information platforms, as the richest people in the world, and as war enablers. So the whole kind of fusing of the AI machine, and these are the same AI machines that I'm using this for, which people will be tweeting, posting, Facebook. They are the same people who are doing a direct hit on Minab in Iran, where the 168 schoolgirls were killed. There's a $200 million contract with Anthropic that America has cancelled, but Sam Altman of OpenAI has now jumped in. So just over all of the global majorities, data, etc., you have 4 or 5 tech bros sitting in Silicon Valley who are running not just the information platforms, but also enabling the war. So I think this three business of being really rich, being the war enablers, and the information providers, I don't need any theory to see this. It's like clearly visible, it's clear and present and there. So in this kind of thing, just to explore whether solidarities are possible amongst us, amongst people, amongst parties, amongst groups, amongst countries, I think they are, because first principles are being violated in a way which it's impossible to kind of ignore. It's the violations are just so egregious that you're violating all people are equal. You're violating basic things without the cover. We were in a sense unlucky that Bush went into Iraq after going to the Security Council and doing the necessary paperwork. The fact that there's no paperwork happening, there is a Diet Coke sipping, Mac eating US president who's just declaring things, not going to the Congress, is making the whole injustice of this very, very, very clear. And we can kind of see that the US is actually pulling back on DEI, on diversity and inclusion. And there was a report that said that Trump didn't want to stand next to a black woman officer. So they just changed the promotion rules there. So, blacks or women, etc., will not get the whole affirmative deal there. That's not happening. In India, too, we see that the right to equality is at risk. And we have the same forces that sided with the colonial powers when they were controlling India, the Brits. The BJP's ideological predecessors had absolutely no role to play in the freedom struggle. And they're the ones here, in power now. So for them, it's a very easy, comfortable fit with the colonial idea or the imperial idea of running the world. So we are really in that twisted Orwellian world of war is peace and peace is war. Also, a lot of us would be very pained to explain what's happening with the military-industrial complex. This is how it all meets. But as we discovered, it's just so blatantly clear now that you don't even need a theoretical exposition to explain it. And it became very clear in a 10-second bite that Trump did in an aeroplane when he was asked about, he just kidnapped Maduro, and he just mentioned it that, no, I'll get India to buy the Venezuelan oil because now we control it. So the whole economics of this war about using foreign policy to issue executive orders to make sure that India does not buy Russian oil, does not buy Iranian oil, and buys Venezuelan oil, which, by the way, the Reliance refineries find very hard to process. Our refineries in India are really tuned to process Iranian crude, which is much sweeter and less sour than Venezuelan crude, which is very heavy. And also the distance between Venezuela and in India. But what you've done is you effected that, and that's a part of your war on either Venezuela. So I think oil war, forcing countries and using foreign policy for their economics is so clear. And the other thing that makes the deal very clear is that war and peace and timing of financial markets. So Mr. Trump is going to announce war or peace depending on what the price of oil he wants to keep in the market, and also try and cheat the market. So these fictitious talks that he's talking about, we feared was only because of buying pause for 5 days while the markets will be open. And then when the markets shut on Friday, he may well have attacked. I don't know what constituted that a further extension of the ceasefire. There are also reports and credible reports and documentation of trillions of rupees being made in the market by clear insider trading, whether it is on the price of oil. So just 15 minutes before Trump issues an order, there's millions, there are people trading on that. And it is not a surprise that his son runs a crypto company, his son-in-law is doing the deal. So the most absurd and the most clear, visible things are happening. So you don't have to sit and explain the political economy of the war to people. It's kind of just unfolding in real time, being made very clear by Donald Trump on an airplane. So I think that's money being made. The fact that this whole thing is locked in with the economy, with the richest people in the world being completely in cahoots with the war machine is out like never before. So I think this is an opportunity because it's a time of great clarity, for all of us to actually throw the baby out with the bathwater. Such moments don't come easily when somebody like Iran can make Lego videos, push it out, and just, they've made worse videos. I haven't shown you those. So, and we must really call for an end to the billionaire Raj, because all that I think people like us were talking about, were theoretically trying to explain to people, is just crystal clear. And I don't think we should hesitate to oppose the system root and branch. And the fact that India is run by an ideology which, as I said earlier, is exactly that ideology which supported the British, even as the British were colonizing us. actually gives us a great opportunity to makes our jobs easier of opposing what's happening. So I think I join my preceding speaker and everybody to extend our solidarity to the people of Iran and Venezuela and others in Latin America who are worried with these hot and cold kind of statements that the United States is making. And we should be unhesitatingly building an alternative which may not look like some giant alternative, because as the Iran war has shown us, asymmetry is the game. They have been able to defeat the United States because they're not playing on their terms. If Iran had like an American army which stands, I think it would have been crushed in a day. But the fact that they do it asymmetrically on their own terms is a lesson that those wanting to build solidarities, trying to oppose this whole giant machine would well do to learn. And we should do that, and may the solidarity grow, glow, and the wars end. Thank you very much.